Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it is time for some PathOfExile discussion. Today I wanted to tackle a question of whether you should map in accordance with the Searing Exarch or the Eater of Worlds in patch 3.20. Now my initial answer is actually going to go somewhat against the conventional wisdom. The best individual outcomes that you can get are on the Eater of Worlds side. And so a lot of people are thinking, oh, I want to go for the Eater of Worlds to chase those juicy altars that give you Divine Orbs. For example, map boss drops 2 to 4 additional Divine Orbs. This is a phenomenal outcome when it shows up, but I think that the Searing Exarch actually has more going for it. And the key reason for this, and I'll put a link down in the description below to all the datamined information about exactly how rare all the altars are and what they can do. The key reason for this is that the Eater of Worlds side is flooded with a whole lot of bad rewards that give low-end currency, and that these end up making the good rewards, like the Divine Orb one, so much rarer than you might otherwise expect. While I was editing this, I realized I'd left out one thing that was really important, and that is that the modifiers to boss drops and the modifiers to Eldritch Minion drops are actually the same. It's just that each time the boss drop gives you 125 times what the Eldritch Minion one would have done. So instead of 1.6 chance when you kill an Eldritch Minion to get a specific reward, the boss drop will have a 100% chance to give you 2 of that, which is 125 times as good, and it's the same at the high end as well, 3.2% to 4 times. So for example, final boss drops 2 to 4 additional Divine Orbs. This is an absolutely phenomenal result, and it has a weighting of 1,000. What the weighting means is that essentially this has 1,000 tickets in a raffle. For comparison, Regal Orbs has a weighting of 6,000. That means that you will see the Regal Orb altar 6 times as often as you see the Divine Orb altar. All seems fine so far. You don't mind a chance of 1 in 7 to get a Divine Orb, 6 in 7 to get a Regal Orb, but when we start to add in a bunch of the lesser currencies, you'll see that these are all on the Eater of Worlds side. Final boss drops 2 to 4 additional Orbs of Alteration, 160 times as common as getting the Divine Orb one. And final boss drops 2 to 4 additional Chromatic Orbs, 160 times as common as getting the Divine Orb one. Final boss drops 2 to 4 additional Jeweller's Orbs, 160 times as common as getting the Divine Orb one. Final boss drops 2 to 4 additional Orbs of Fusing, 100 times as common this time, so a little bit rarer, but still these add a tremendous amount of clutter into the loot pool. That means that it is much rarer to see the things you really want to see, which is those juicy Divine Orb altars. Additionally, if you don't get the Divine Orb altar, there's the semi-jackpot of getting Exalted Orbs, but that's just as rare as Divine Orbs. And then there's just not all that much else on the Eater of Worlds side. There are a couple of other good things you can get, like you can get Scarabs. Scarabs are everywhere, but you also get Scarabs on the Searing Exarch side as well, and they seem reasonably evenly split. And then you get to the ones that award divination cards. Eldritch Minions gain 1.6 to 3.2% chance to drop an additional divination card, which rewards basic currency. 230,000 weighting, so this is going to show up all the time. You know what's basic currency and the most common divination card in the game? Yes, you guessed it, Reign of Chaos. You will get Reign of Chaos, 3 Faces in the Dark, Sea of Blue, a whole bunch of other divination cards that are pretty low value all of the time when you get this altar. Yes, it is possible to get something better, but overwhelmingly, you are not going to see House of Mirrors with this. You are instead going to see those very common divination cards that award basic currency, like the Inventor, like the Reign of Chaos. They're going to be everywhere, and that's going to be the overwhelming majority of what you get. And this altar is actually not really worth taking because of that. There is one good outcome here, but it is quite low weighting, and this is a roughly 4,000 weight chance to get a divination card that awards other divination cards. There are 5 divination cards that award other divination cards in the game. One of them is a jackpot, that's the Immortal. One of them is a near jackpot, that's the Nurse. And then 2 of them are quite good, Brush, Paint and Palette, and the Patient. The other one is kind of less so, but with 5 outcomes and 4 of them being good, this is a genuine jackpot if you get it, and it's something you should always take. But the rest of the altars are pretty mediocre. And that's really all there is on the Eater of Worlds side. Let's have a look at what you get on the Searing Exarch side, because the Searing Exarch offers a lot more. So on the Searing Exarch side, you have Awakened Sextants, which are weighted at 21,000, and you have Chaos Orbs weighted at 48,000. However, because there's none of that absolute flood of low-value currency, this actually ends up being quite a lot more common. The weightings on the Searing Exarch side add up to about 550,000, whereas the weightings on the Eater of Worlds side add up to more than 1 million. So that means that a weighting of 21,000 is actually something like a 4% chance to get this really good Awakened Sextant outcome, and almost a 10% chance to get Chaos Orbs. And so those things add up to quite a bit, So 4% chance to get an Awakened Sextant and a 9% chance to get a Chaos Orb almost adds up to as much as a 0.1% chance to get a Divine Orb. That's your starting point, but then there's so much more when we start looking at the divination cards. Chance to drop a divination card that rewards unique jewellery. This sounds like rubbish until you have a look at just how many of these divination cards there are that are phenomenal. So we have the Doctor, we have the Apothecary, we have the Insane Cat, which was newly added this patch, we have the Fiend, we have the Demon, and we have the Price of Devotion. All of these are extreme chase divination cards. And whilst they're individually very rare cards, it's my estimate that when you get a divination card that rewards unique jewellery, it's about 1 in 600 chance for it to be one of these big six. And most of the time, if you get one of the big six, it'll be a Doctor. The next most common will be the Apothecary. The reason for this is that it appears that these altars respect the relative rarity of these divination cards in the game. And, very importantly, there are no divination cards that reward unique jewellery that are completely overwhelmingly common. Even the very most common of them all, which is a divination card, the Sword King's Salute, seems to be about 25 times as rare as Reign of Chaos, and so it's certainly not something that is going to rain down from the sky in crazy numbers, and it's also not going to pollute the loot pool anywhere near as much as Reign of Chaos pollutes the loot pool over on the currency ones. For the last several leagues, a team of players led by Poor Fishwife have been trying to reverse engineer the drop tables of all of the divination cards in the game, and it seems like the divination card, the Sword King's Salute, is 170 times as common as the Doctor from this research. And based on everything that Poor Fishwife has come up with, I believe that you are about 1 in 600 to get a Doctor or comparable tier rarity card, so one of the cards that awards a Headhunter or a Mageblood directly, every time that you get a divination card that grants unique jewellery. I've personally had both a Doctor and a Demon from this mechanic in previous leagues, albeit a slightly different version that existed in 3.17 and 3.18 and 3.19, and it is something that will happen if you run enough of these maps. So you might be asking, what's a 1 in 600 chance of getting a Doctor or comparable tier card worth? Well, actually, it's worth about as much as an Awakened Sextant. You can run the numbers on that. Both early league when Sextants are cheap and Headhunter cards tend to be fairly cheap, or later in the league when both of those go up in price, it tends to be that a Doctor is worth about 600 Awakened Sextants, give or take a couple of hundred. And so you can say that this is like having an additional mod in the pool that's for an Awakened Sextant. We already said that the Awakened Sextant's one of the better mods, and this is just like having more of them in the pool. Then there's a couple of other divination cards that are worse than this, but that are still worth taking. 1.6 to 3.2% chance to drop an additional divination card, which rewards a corrupted unique item, or if you take the map boss version of this, it is map boss is 100% to drop 2 to 4 divination cards that award corrupted unique items. And this here has a weighting of 14,000, so it's a bit rarer than that last one, but it'll still be there 3% of the time when you click your altar. And this has a slightly smaller pool of jackpots. Here, your true jackpots are getting the Fiend, the Insane Cat, the Demon, or the Price of Devotion. And then there's a few other things like the Price of Loyalty that could also come up here that are okay, but that are much less of a contributor to the value of this outcome. That's something that you generally want to take. And then there is 1.6 to 3.2% chance to get a divination card which rewards a corrupt item, which is worse again than corrupted unique item, but is still worth saying that it does have some very, very good jackpots available for you. So with all of that stated, the Eater of Worlds loot pool is completely corrupted with all of the Alteration Orbs, all of the Jeweller's Orbs, all the Chromatic Orbs, and all the Fusing Orbs. Those very, very low value currencies that don't really add up to very much, and they end up making it so that the Divine Orb drops are far rarer than you might think they are. On the flip side, the Searing Exarch has a number of genuinely good things. The meat and potatoes of what you're getting is going to be the Awakened Sextants and the Chaos Orbs. They will add up to be about as valuable as the Divine Orbs would have been if you're on the Eater of Worlds side, but it's the divination cards that truly push them ahead. And that's why I'm going to recommend that you do your Eldritch Altar farming on the Searing Exarch side for the moment. That said, if you do want to have a look at all the hard numbers and formulate your own plan, I'll put a link down to this datamined information in the description below. May your Eldritch Altars have interesting results.